guys, so welcome back to my channel. First things first, I want to apologize and say I'm really sorry about the lack of videos that have been on my channel recently. I think I actually tweeted out at one point that just doing voiceovers was really tough, and that's the main reason why I've been gone. It's just that I haven't really found time to do voiceovers and things sort of got in the way. So yeah, when I tweeted out, I said like I only had like 14 or so minutes of voiceover recording done. That's just because towards the end, I was in a public place and people around me were sort of setting up and moving tables, putting up posters, and it just got super, super loud. So I couldn't really do any more voiceovers. And then the next week after that was actually kind of like a lot of tests right before spring break. So I was kind of focusing more on that. And then the week after that was, of course, spring break. And I did go out of town for a couple of days. I'm back now and it's still spring break, but I'm going back on Monday. But I don't really know when I'm going to post this. So that could be today or it could be a couple of days ago. Anyways, let's talk about the build. So this one is kind of a fun one. This one is, of course, as the title says, Parisian block. It's just kind of based off of buildings that I've seen in Paris, pictures that I've seen of Paris. I think this is a little bit more extravagant and lavish than most buildings. I mean, not all buildings look like this. Although all the buildings there are beautiful, but this is probably a nice fancier one. But yeah, this is a huge build. It has both commercial lots as well as residential lots. So if you download this and put it in your game, you can kind of choose, I guess, if you want it to be commercial or residential. I would honestly, now the thing is my computer is kind of a slow guy. It doesn't really work that well. It doesn't have lots of RAM. So my computer tends to slow down really quickly. But if your computer, I'm pretty sure your computers are a lot better than mine, but if your computer is slowing down, just kind of delete some of the items. If you're using it for like a commercial property, you know, delete all the residential items, because I do furnish every single room in this build. And then if you're doing it for a residential lot or something, you can remove all the commercial items. I personally used it as a restaurant, so yeah, it does have a restaurant. There are 3 commercial properties, so there's a restaurant and then there are like 2 retail spaces. One of them I wanted it to be a clothing store, although I don't really like any of the clothing sort of items. I don't think that they look that great. The only things that I put in were like the folded shirts, as well as the like 3 pieces of clothing hanging on that sad little rack, and it does not look really good. I tried to do as best as I could. So that's the second store, and then the third store is, I'm not really sure what you would call it. I would consider it kind of like Lush, if you guys know that store Lush, that sells a lot of like bath products. But kind of like a higher end one. It's like a much fancier sort of bath and body care sort of store. And yeah, so there are also, how many apartments are there? I think there are 4 apartments. So 2 of them are quite small, a lot smaller than I intended them to be. One of them, which is on the corner of the build, so on that like diagonal side, that's one of the apartments, and then there is a large apartment. I think that it kind of makes sense to make the large apartment on the corner, but I wanted the large apartment to have, I guess, like a private entrance, so didn't really work out that way, but I think it still works out. Yeah, so I guess I honestly haven't even been looking at what I've been doing in the build. I don't even know if I'm completely done with the build or not. Now this build did take me a little bit longer. So the whole gist of this building is that I tried to see if I could do it. So in my previous video, which if you haven't seen that, I will link it, maybe as a what is that called? The cards or something. Yeah, you can check that video out. But I kind of noticed in that video, I put like some herringbone floors on the ground, and then I had some wallpapers, and it kind of sort of started to take a very European, Parisian sort of style, and I thought, hey, can I actually do like a Parisian build? And so most of this was just a test to see if I could do it, and it actually turned out okay. I think that maybe if I had the vampire stuff pack, that's not right. It's not a stuff pack. The vampire game pack, then it could have been a little bit better, because I know that there are a lot of more ornate items in that pack that maybe it could have been a little bit better, but I think it still turned out for having a lot of like base game items, a lot of a couple of the other packs that I have. And yeah, so it turned out okay. I think it turned out pretty well. I think a lot of the windows that I used are base game, so that was really interesting to do. And yeah, so the roofs gave me a little bit of a tough time. Couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do. It was really tough. I've never built anything kind of like this, where it has like a like on the grid wall, and then a diagonal wall, and then another on the grid wall, or like a straight wall diagonal wall, because I couldn't really figure out how to roof that side bit, the one with the diagonal. Yeah, you'll see me eventually like try to work things out, and it looks really ugly at one point, then I fix it, so we're all good. And yeah, so here I'm just putting a couple of little dormers. None of these are useful, so you can't actually get up to the 3rd floor. So yeah, all the apartments actually have 2 floors, and for the 2 small ones, the apartment actually ends up becoming pretty small. So that's not like the best sort of way I could do it, but I did do the outdoor or the exterior before I did the interior, and yeah. Yeah, also what I want to say is that this build actually is not completely finished. So I've done the exterior, and this build is huge, so that's mostly why I didn't finish. So I've done the exterior, I've done a little bit of the interior, I've done some of the furnishing, or I've completed the furnishing on the commercial lot, so the 1st floor, or if you're in Europe, I think it's like 0, like ground 0 or something like that. The ground floor, we'll say that. And then I've done a couple of the apartments. I think I've done 2 of the 4 apartments. I still have to finish the 3rd and the 4th apartment, and then we'll be good. It's just taking me such a long time, especially because this is a very stylized sort of build. I feel like a lot of the interiors have to look a little bit more European-like, so I can't like really make the interior of the build modern. Actually, you know what, I could try to figure that out. Maybe I will put that in one of the apartments that I do, because like I said, I haven't finished the 3rd and the 4th one yet. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah. But now, what are we doing? We're just putting a couple of little plants around, and I definitely think that made a huge difference. I eventually color some of the walls and stuff, because I know everything looks really bland right now, but adding a lot of the greens, adding a lot of like colors, changing up the shutters of the windows and stuff, that definitely changed it. And yeah, so that little corner commercial lot, that's the restaurant. So the restaurant is actually pretty big. Actually, the inside of the restaurant isn't super big, but there is a lot of outdoor seating, so you can underneath those like kind of like red and white striped awnings are going to be seating, outdoor seating, mostly 2-seaters. And then out in the back, I'm actually going to make that, if you kind of if you see the building, it's kind of like an L. So then I kind of fill in that L shape with an outdoor area for the restaurant, so it kind of carries through. And then I created like this outdoor sort of indoor. You'll see it when I do it, but what I will say about that is that it's not coming out probably till part 4, so you're gonna have to see it. And yes, there's probably gonna be 4 parts of this. I know it's gonna be a long one. I'm gonna attempt to get them out a lot more frequently than I've been doing. Not necessarily as a thing that I'm going to start doing, because I also have schoolwork and stuff like that. But just because this build, I just want to knock this build out and move on to other builds. So I'm going to try my best. So I'm not making any promises, but I'm going to try my best to really just kind of put a lot of these videos out and finish this build. So yeah, but what I was saying is that I filled the back with a like outdoor restaurant area. And yeah. And then here I am trying to figure out what to do with that roof. So I saw some pictures and I was looking at like roofs that they did. So if you saw previously, I was fidgeting around with a lot of like rounded roofs. And it looked good in like the pictures, but I just couldn't get it to work that well in The Sims. So I finally just, went away from that idea and then just did this. That's just kind of it's just a square, I guess. And then more dormers. Again, all these are decorative. None of them can be accessible, but I think that they look quite nice. Yeah, and then this build was a little bit tricky. So I think that in the build mode, it does get a little bit irritating, but I think in live mode, I think it should be fine. But in build mode, it's just because the whole wall is just, if you remove all the items, it's just like 4 walls like stacked on top of each other. So a lot of times when you're zooming in and out, the camera goes really wonky. Sometimes when you're zooming in, it'll go all the way up to the 4th floor, and then if you're zooming out, it will drop all the way to the ground, and it gets really irritating. But I think that it should be fine in live mode, so it should all be good. And yeah, I added a lot of columns around. Now, this actually wasn't my idea. I actually went to some other YouTubers, looked at their builds, and then they used a lot of columns, and I was like, columns, why didn't I think of that? So went back in my game, decided to add a bunch of columns, and I think that they really worked. I don't know why I forgot about them, but I did, and once I added them, I was like, epiphany moment. And yeah, the problem with this roof though is that in that corner, the diagonal corner, it kind of doesn't really make sense. But I think that no one's really gonna look too closely into that, so we'll just, move past that. And yeah, so those 2 on the left that I've kind of already done, those 2 apartments, those ones are the ones that I've done, like furnished. The corner and the large one on the right side of the build, that one still needs to be furnished. And actually the large apartment turned out to be very large. There is kind of like the 1st floor, or you go up the stairs and then you get to that 1st floor. And it's just a huge open space, and I have no idea what to do with it. I don't know where to put the kitchen. I don't know where to put the living room, anything else. So it's taken me quite a while. I did get a little bit frustrated just because I was furnishing things very similarly between apartments, and I just didn't really want to do it anymore. That's not really my style as well. So I don't really get that enthusiastic about doing the furnishing of these kind of builds. And yeah. But what I will say is that maybe I could actually just upload this and not do one of the apartments, because you know, if you download it, maybe you have some idea and you can completely furnish the apartment entirely as you want it instead of me putting in furniture and stuff. So that could be interesting. But I'm a very big completionist. I do like to completely finish a build and then upload it. So leaving something like half done is a little bit irritating to me. So yeah. And then here is, this was a little bit of a struggle as well. I couldn't really figure out how I wanted to do this apartment. And that is the large apartment that I'm sort of putting the balconies on. Yeah. So I don't know if I've done it already because I actually haven't been looking at the little screen, but there is kind of fireplace-like things on each side of the build. It's kind of just this brick, what is it, like 4 tile wide on each side. I wanted that initially to be a fireplace, but then I completely forgot about it and decided that it wasn't a fireplace, it was just there to be an accent. So the apartment that it should have had the fireplace, it doesn't. So it's kind of just there for decoration purposes. Yeah, a lot of the things I guess are there for decorational purposes. Like the balconies, none of them you can actually get onto because they're all windows. Actually, I mean, you can climb through the windows if, you know, like Friends where there's like no door to their outdoor like balcony. You just have to climb through the window. You could do that, I guess, but yeah. I really wanted to put doors. Actually, this one has a door. I didn't even realize that. But some of the apartments don't have any doors. And I really wanted to, but just none of them worked out the way that looked quite nice or looked quite right. So just changed everything to windows, really. And then, okay, here is something really weird about this. I'm not sure if I'm going to explain it right, but if you can kind of see on this corner, the wallpaper on the second floor, at that very corner, it kind of has like a stone accent. Like on the very corner, you can see a couple of like stone tiling on the corner. But on the other side, for some reason, I have no idea why, but it just didn't, like it doesn't have it on the corner. Like there's a certain wallpaper that you can get that has the stone on the corners. And then when I did it on the right side of the build, when I just kind of painted the corner, it just didn't have it. So it really irritated me how one of them, how it like doesn't have the stone texture. I think you can see it a little bit. Actually, right now I'm pretty zoomed out, but it's really irritating. I'm not sure if any of you guys know what I'm talking about or understand where in the build that I am speaking of, but it's a really minute little part of the build, and it's just something that irritated me because I'm really like pedantic. I'm really like nitpicky about a lot of these things, and that just kind of annoyed me, but yeah, I'm just gonna have to get over it, I guess. And yeah, so here is me trying to put a door in, but it didn't really go. I don't know, the door just doesn't look good. Actually, are those under the archways? I'm not sure if those are doors or windows. It would make sense if they're doors, but I actually do think that they're windows, so. It does take up a lot of space, but I really like that idea of like an archway, and then the door like beneath it. I kind of use that idea in the first floor, in the entrance to the restaurant, so I kind of skipped over that, but it has an archway, and then you go past the archway, and then there's doors. I'm not really sure what sparked me to do that, but I thought it was kind of cool, and I just ran with it. Yeah. So this first part is gonna be the exterior. but it's not like the full exterior because I do the like courtyard back area in part 4. So you're not really gonna see that. I don't know, I tried to put it into this part, but this video is already like 34 minutes long and I didn't really want to make it any longer. I've done a 40-minute episode. Why did I say episode? I've done a 40-minute video and that was just way too long. So I'm gonna make it into a 4th part, which just shows a lot of the like finishing details. Yeah, because part 2 is going to be the furnishing of the first floor. Part 3 is going to be the furnishing of the apartments, and then part 4, I'm assuming if it's long enough, it'll be like its own part, and it'll be just kind of like a bunch of detailed work, just things that I really couldn't fit into any of the other parts. So yeah, this is gonna be a huge 4-parter build. I don't know if I'm gonna do any build like this in the future. It's not really my style. I go in thinking that like, ooh, I'm gonna build like a huge mansion or something, but then I just get bored really because it's just so long. I feel like I'm running out of ideas. It's kind of just like furnishing the same style over and over again, and I get in this rut. So I like doing a lot of more smaller builds, builds that only have like 2 or 3 bedrooms is like max. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm gonna revisit this kind of build. Also, this style of build, like I said, this is not really my style. I'm definitely more like of a modern builder. I like very straight, clean lines. But this was kind of a fun one. I mean, it was fun to try out. Again, like I said, this was originally like a test to see like if I could kind of create that very typical European architectural style on the exterior. And turns out you can, which is quite nice. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting because I haven't seen that many people do these kind of builds, and they're kind of fun. I don't really know what like sparked me really to do this. It was just curiosity, I guess. I don't know what my next build is going to be. I haven't actually done it yet, but I think it's just gonna be like a home build. I think it's just gonna be like kind of a traditional. Actually, I don't want to make any promises, so I'm not going to say anything further because I have no idea what I'm going to build. Yeah, so going back to the build, this is the retail lot. So this is the, I think, clothing store. And then I don't know if I've actually done the other side yet, but the other side has the bath and body store. Yeah, not to be confused with Bath and Body Works. And then there's also a door on the very left side of the build. That is kind of the entrance to the 3 apartments. So you go into this little hallway, you go up the stairs, and then you can go into each of the 3 apartments. And then the expensive apartment, I guess, has its own like private entrance. And then this is it. This is a private entrance, and I created kind of like this, I don't even know what you would call it. Is it like a vestibule? Like, I don't know, it's almost like a greenhouse sort of feeling. So it has this kind of covered awning, glass awning, I don't know, atrium. I really am not skilled in any of these architectural words, so I can honestly be saying random words and I don't even know if they would make sense. Yeah. But this is, I mean, it's kind of nice. I don't know if it's necessarily like needed. I probably didn't need to spend so much time doing this because it actually took me a really long time. I've actually cut out a huge chunk of this because I was trying to figure out how to create like a cover over this build, but I just couldn't do it quite right. And then I just finally put that, what is it called? It's kind of like a glass greenhouse, but then it's open. I don't know what that thing's called, but I just put that as a little cover. And then I'm just doing a little bit of the, I don't know, decorations around here and there, just putting a little plants in the front of the build. And yeah, what really annoys me though is that the lighting in that little area in between the archway and the door, it's like different. That really irritates me. Yeah, and then oh, so if you can see, I have those little tiny like iron fencing around. I quickly changed that. I really wanted it to be around the trees, but you can't you can't put fences on the edge of a lot. So I think what do I do? I think I move the whole lot a little bit further in, and then I am able to put the iron fencing around, yeah, right here, because I just really wanted to put the iron fencing around the little trees, because I don't know, the iron fencing just seemed, it was like calling my name to do. I mean, it just seemed perfect for the build. So yeah, and then I filled the inside with a couple of like colorful plants. Yeah. And then I definitely think the trees made a huge difference. I really like the trees. They're quite nice. It looks very manicured though, I will say that. It looks like, you know, a gardener is there every single day kind of maintaining the look and feel of it. Yeah. So the lot that I put this in, it kind of doesn't really make sense because I've kind of put my own sidewalk in, but then if you can see the lot that I put it in, there's already a sidewalk. So there's almost like two sidewalks, two patches of like grass, and then the road. Doesn't make too much sense, but just put it there for fun. I don't know, I think I put it in New Crust. I actually don't know if any of the other lots, do all the lots have sidewalks on them? No, I don't think so. Yeah, just really depends on where you put this in your build. I would actually recommend you put it in Magnolia Promenade because it seems very fitting for that area, but I actually don't have Get to Work, so I couldn't really put it in Magnolia Promenade. Actually, does it even have, what lot size is this? I actually think that this isn't the biggest lot size, even though I say it's like a huge build. It's just because it has like 4 floors, so yeah. And then here is the fireplaces, the little chimney areas. None of them really go anywhere. I'm just putting the top of the chimney kind of area, but I don't think anybody uses them. Actually, since I haven't done the 4th apartment, I could actually use it as a fireplace, but I've done the layout of the apartment and I don't think that any of the walls really touch it, so never mind. And yeah, just finishing off with the more of these plants. I actually don't know if this is the end. I don't think this is the end. I still have quite a few minutes left, but I thought this was the end. But I really like these. These are kind of cute. I like a lot of the colors that I put in. It's so like manicured. I mean, from what I've seen, I've been to Paris like twice or something. I don't think anything, it doesn't look particularly like this, but I just made a couple of creative liberties here and there, and decided that this is what I thought it would look like. But Paris is beautiful, it is. The only times that I've gone though is when it's winter, so I haven't seen it in like full bloom, but I would love to, especially go to Palace of Versailles. That would be amazing. I went when it was the winter time, so a lot of flowers were like non-existent, not in bloom, so it didn't look as pretty, but I would love to go again during spring. That would be pretty awesome. And yeah, so now I'm just adding a lot of little details here and there. I kind of just went into a lot of the decorative items just to see if I could put anything here and there around. So I'm putting a lot of those. I actually don't know what they're called, those little triangle bits. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they're like those white triangles. And then a lot of the planters around. Yeah, just kind of trying to make it seem a little bit more complex and a little bit more architecturally interesting, because I feel like that's what it would be. A lot of it would be, you know, hand carved and, you know, taking a lot of time to do all these things. And I definitely wanted to put a lot of greens around. And this is the corner that has that weird thing that the stone isn't on the corners, so that was a little bit annoying. I tried to put some vines there to cover it up, but it just didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, so I think I just deleted them. Yeah, and then just adding a couple of lights, because one thing that I always seem to forget is lighting at night. Actually, just lighting in general. I always just seem to forget about it, and then I have to like remind myself to add it in. So it's always one of the last few steps that I do, just because I forget. Because I play it usually in the daytime. I always try to do it in like the afternoon lighting, because I think that's the best lighting. It's the brightest, and it's the most flattering. Yeah, so I never put it at night. Here I'm actually putting it at night though, because I reminded myself to see what it looks like at night. But also with the screenshots, I did forget to put lights on like the third floor, like the second floor, so it looks a little bit odd at night. I'm gonna fix that probably in like the fourth part. Yeah, so I will add lights because it's weird because it's like a gradient. It goes from dark to light, just because I have no lights up on the third and second and like fourth floor. So all the lighting is down here. And then this is the entrance to the private entranced apartment, the nice one. And I just kind of wanted to create a very like green wall on the side and make it seem, I don't know, kind of fancy and nice, like you would have your wealthier sim just kind of go into their private entrance, go up their apartment. And you won't see it in this part, but I think in the second part you'll see it. Second or third part maybe, but the private entrance has like this little desk area, and I kind of imagined it to be like a desk. What are they called? Like, what are they called? A doorman. There we go. A doorman, like sitting there looking at the computer, looking at like some security cameras. Yeah, so it has like a section for the doorman. But this is what I came up with. Practicality, that's a word, right? Practical wise, I don't know how good that is, because I don't think if you put the walls down, I don't think the like glass awning thing actually goes down, so it might be a little bit interesting, but it's not bad. Anyways, these are the screenshots. I'm pretty happy with the way that they turned out. I don't want to pat myself on the back or anything, but I mean, like I said, this was a test just to see, you know, could I do it? Is it actually going to work out? And I'm happily surprised at how it looks. I think it looks pretty good for what it is. But these are the screenshots at night. This one is into the private entrance. And like I said, this is like the gradient, like from dark to light. But that's it. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. See you later. Bye.